Hey, y'all.
And welcome to the Carrboro Film Festival.
My dream for the kids would be to leave them the farm.
Ain't supposed to let nobody die of thirst or starve to death.
Is that all it comes down to? Do we simply transact to gain entrance into the kingdom?
Okay, are you okay?
Are you just standing in the middle of the kitchen, crying and eating chicken?
Yeah.
You know, when you think about it, you're kind of a hero.
Yeah, I'm very well aware of where Cleveland is, Sarah.
Welcome to Call Time, the first of two live-streamed events brought to you by the Carrboro Film Festival 2020. I'm Edith Snow. I'm here with my co-host, Huru Price. We are bringing it all to you virtually this year, and that is thanks to the Town of Carrboro and Carrboro Tourism Development Authority. We are live streaming from the Art Center in downtown Carrboro, North Carolina. We have such a great show to share with you this evening. We're talking with filmmakers. We have a live dance performance. We're going to be sharing selections and a little bit of a sampling of what we've got going on in the festival. And we also have some prizes to give away. I'm actually going to go ahead and get that rolling. If you will, leave in the comments the answer to the following question. What is your favorite dance film of all time and why? What is your favorite dance film of all time and why? Let us know that and we'll enter your name into a drawing. Winners will be announced at the end of the show and will receive gift card packets to downtown Carrboro businesses. We're supporting the town, making you happy. I can't wait to read some of those answers. If you are interested in seeing the festival this year, all of the information is on our website at www.carborofilm.org. You can see how to access the film festival in its entirety for $30. If you'd rather just get a block here or a block there, you can do that too. That's $4.99 per block. We have two free blocks this year, North Carolina Narrative Shorts and North Carolina Short Docs. We have some North Carolina filmmakers here with us this evening. We'll be talking to Bree Von Bradsky very shortly. But first, let's take a look at a clip from her film, A Room of One's Own. I am pretty sure you guys are going to identify with this film. Take a look. Mira.
Good evening, folks, and welcome back to the Carrboro Film Festival. I am here with one of our filmmakers who has a film in the festival. I'm here with Bree Von Bradsky. Good evening.
Good evening. Nice to be here.
Thank you for coming. Your film is wonderful. I'm so glad you made it. It kind of touches a lot of us, what we're going through right now, you know?
Yes, still going through.
Yeah, still. I noticed in your bio that you were overseas.
I was.
When sort of all this went down. And you came back and got questions, you know, where have you been, that sort of thing. And then you got home and you're going to quarantine.
Yes.
Like self-quarantine.
Absolutely.
But then you decided to make a film about it.
I
Was that like an immediate, like, oh, I'm in quarantine, I'm going to make a film? Like, what was the thought process on that?
It wasn't immediate. I think I was actually against making a quarantine film to start with, because I was like, well, what's exciting
Right.
about my space or about me and about quarantining? And so I need to be closer to the mic, sorry.
You can lift it up a little bit.
And so I was against it, and then I realized that I had a couple finals to make some films for. I'm a student in grad school right now, and so
Okay.
I was like, well, why don't I start just by practicing and filming? And I started to notice a few things, like how the light was hitting my room in the morning, and I was jet lagged, so I was waking up earlier than normal, so I was seeing the sunlight and
Right.
all of these new things, and I was like, oh, actually that might be nice to film. So I started, and then it just flowed from there.
Yeah. It kind of plays out like a self-portrait almost, because it's you and it's your space. What is it like sort of documenting yourself? You become the subject of your own film.
It was difficult. I don't like being in front of the camera. I like to be behind the camera.
Right.
I like to edit. That's what I feel comfortable doing. But
Right.
when you're making a film about isolation and quarantine, those moments where I caught myself in the reflection,
Right.
or I catch myself in the mirror, or I'm like working out and I turn and there's my mirror and I see me. These are all the different ways I'm seeing myself.
Right.
And so it just made sense to include those moments, as well as the moments without myself in there. But yeah.
Did as you went along, day 3, day 7, day 10, as you said, you got back and you were jet lagged, but as now you're seeing the same walls, and so did your view of your home, of your house, change?
Yeah. I can't say that I had spent that much time in my house before quarantine. I'm new to Durham, and I was in school, and so I just felt like I was always out of my house, and then all of a sudden I was given the time, because our spring break was extended by another week, so I didn't have classes, I didn't have schoolwork. I just had time to sit there and be there.
Right.
And so day 1 through 5, I was really enjoying this.
Okay.
Day 6 through 14, 15, I started to really feel like I was in the Twilight Zone.
Right.
Yes.
Right on. So let me ask you this, as sort of a curveball. If you had to do it again, like another 14 days or even 21 days, do you think you could handle it better now? 1, would you film it? And 2, would you feel differently and sort of mastered the
I don't know if I
situation?
would do better. Probably worse.
Wow, worse. Okay.
I feel like at the start of quarantine, I was really excited to do all of these things, just as everyone else was,
Right.
At home.
Right.
But I feel like I've exhausted those now.
Right.
I have moved houses, so perhaps it would be interesting to see what would stand out in the new house to me.
Okay.
But I have 2 really lovely roommates and housemates, which would change the experience
Gotcha.
completely.
Did you even go outside at all? Like,
I would go on my back stoop,
yeah.
but I wouldn't leave the stoop. I felt like that was not okay, because I had a communal backyard,
Oh, gotcha.
sharing with other people, and I had people deliver groceries for me. So I would open up the door and we would have an exchange, kind of really far apart.
Right.
But that was my outdoor time.
Okay. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I noticed in your film you use a lot of just beautiful colors, and you also use some aspects of poetry. Can you talk a little about how you integrated that poetry into the film?
Yeah, so that actually comes from Virginia Woolf's book, The Waves. And I think it was the beginning of spring when I was quarantining, or just the birds were coming back out in the morning. The sun just felt really warm. And when I was reading The Waves, it's intercut with these moments of very observational writing about the birds outside and their sounds, and then the rest of the book is about these people's experiences. And so I felt very related, like I could relate to them. Right. And I could relate to these moments of silence where I was just listening to the birds. And then I decided to repeat it because it would become a repetition throughout those 14 days. And those words just stood out to me. And I really loved them.
Yeah, and during quarantine, is it true you got a cat?
Yes, 2 cats.
Awesome.
Well,
I'm
actually,
such a cat lady.
Yes, while I was in isolation, I was like, now is the time to foster some pets.
Gotcha.
And then immediately I got them. And that day I was like, I'm not giving them back or giving them away or anything. And so I still have them.
Wonderful.
They're great.
Well, I've got to ask this. What's the first thing you did when you gained your freedom back?
I went for a long walk, and I wept. It was like the best day.
Yeah.
I think it was raining maybe the last couple days in my quarantine, and then the day that I was allowed to take the first steps out my front door, it was like a bluebird day. The sun was shining, but it's still a little bit crisp, and I went out and I was listening to the playlists that were sent my way during quarantine, and I just got to see all of the foliage that was coming back, and I walked until I was hurting.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Was that family, friends that you included in your film?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So my partner is the one who was graduating.
Okay.
That's who I had visited in South Africa.
Gotcha.
And then my parents and my grandparents were, and my sister were celebrating my birthday with me.
Right on. That's fantastic.
Question: If you could have the audience take away, one nugget from your film, what would that be?
Wow.
The impetus, I guess, for sharing it.
I guess embrace the stillness, embrace the moments where you think that it's not okay, and roll with it, and try to find those, how the sun reflects on the wall, and stand there and just feel it and take it in. And I don't know, it made me feel better. So just those small moments are so important.
Well, I definitely felt connected to you when I watched the film. I'm so glad you made it, and I'm so glad it's going to be in the festival this year.
Well, thank you so much for including me.
Yeah, thank you very much. Again, this is Bree Von Bradsky. She has her film in our North Carolina documentaries section. It's called A Room of One's Own.
Great.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you, Bree. Thank you for coming. Bree Von Bradsky, everyone. A Room of One's Own. Make sure you check that film out. Now, you should check out this interview we did with Leo Hodson.
Hey, I'm Brian Reckless. I'm the technical coordinator at the Carrboro Film Fest, and I got to sit down and interview Leo Hodson, writer and star of Sit Down Comedian. That's one of the short films you can see this year at the Carrboro Film Fest, and I'm really excited about it. Sit Down Comedian is a 6-minute single-shot film, so that means that the entire thing happens in real time with no editing, no cuts, which you can imagine that's pretty difficult. But after 10 hours and 19 takes, they got what they wanted. So you can see this film at the Best Form of Therapy film block at carborofilm.org. But right now, I hope you enjoy my conversation with Leo Hodson.
So let's talk about Sit Down Comedian.
The director and I, Brent Clark, we met, and over the last 3 years or so, we've been collaborating, and we probably created anywhere from 12 to 15 short collection series about my perspective, my life, scenarios between myself and friends, myself and romantic interests, and we thought we wanted to make something that we could just get done.
So how did you and Brent get to work together? What kind of led to this happening here?
So I was actually performing in Chapel Hill for Carolina's Funniest Comic Competition, and Brent came up to me after the show and told me that he just thought I was really talented, really funny, and he really liked my perspective. And then he asked me if I was into film, and I that's like one of my biggest passions besides doing stand-up comedy. I love making movies. So that's how we met.
What's it like taking material you've worked on as a stand-up bit and then trying to write it into film, like in a real script? Like, what's that transition like?
It's like trying to make a puzzle and see if the pieces fit. Within our short film, there are a lot of jokes that I've written in the past and weave them in. But there also is a lot of new material that we made while creating the short. When performing in the room of the film, the feedback I get was from the director, and from the crew. And then I get to find out, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? What can I do better? On stage, you only get that one shot, and then it's done. And then there's the next night, the next open mic, the next performance.
Sit Down Comedian is all one take. It's like just over 6 minutes of one take, no cuts, no editing in there. What was that process like?
Well, it was challenging, especially because in the beginning of the film, I'm standing, and I deal with blood pressure issues. And when we first started, I was ready to go, and we had to take some stops, some breaks, and I had to get my blood pressure right, and then go at it again. But I remember being so excited because as a filmmaker, I love one takes. Brent loves one takes, and it's the challenge, but it's also, you don't blink. You're watching the screen, and yeah, it was exciting.
Yeah, I loved it because it gives the audience a real chance to connect with your personality that they would see on stage. I feel like you've got this slower deadpan delivery sometimes that's really fun. And I liked that it was a chance for the audience to see that as they would see it if they actually saw you doing comedy, which I thought was really cool. Cool. I wanted to ask about why do you think it's important for people who have disabilities, physical disabilities, to be telling their own stories, making their own art in a way that people can see them and see what their thought process is on their story, and why is that important to you to do?
Well, my perspective is different than others, which makes my comedy different. It's a realness to it. I have some dark comedy, but the perspective, you're just not going to get it anywhere else. So people with disabilities, whether it's comedy, film, art, it's going to be unique.
Yeah. So what does it mean to you when you see other actors on screen that have a physical disability? Is that important to you? Like, what does that representation mean to you and to like the people you know?
I remember, my disability, I first became disabled in 2009. And when that was roughly at the time that Glee came on. And I remember thinking, was that actor really disabled, the one in the chair? And then it turned out he was like walking in an episode, and it devastated me. And I was just like, man, there's so many disabled actors out there who deserve their opportunity to shine, to show what they can do. And I think it's just, there's so many out there. When I see a disabled actor and I see them in their element, it feels great. I get so happy for them. And whether that's behind the camera or in front of the camera, it feels good.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really glad that Sit Down Comedian is in the Carrboro Film Fest this year. We're super excited to have you here with us for this interview. So thank you so much.
I thank you, really thank you for accepting us and highlighting it, and we couldn't be more grateful. And so, thanks.
Leo Hodson, Sit Down Comedian, can be seen in the Best Form of Therapy film block at the Carrboro Film Festival 2020. We have a couple of dance films too, and we have some visitors from one of those called Level Up. Please welcome to the stage Anna Barker and Leah Wilkes. Anna Barker and Leah Wilkes, everyone. Oh, I have chill bumps. I hope you do at home too. It feels so good. We'll have a chat with Anna Barker in just a sec. But as I mentioned before, earlier in the show, we do have some contests going on. We have some prizes to give away. All you have to do is, in the comments, answer the following question. What is your favorite dance film of all time and why? Leave that in the comments. Your name will go into a drawing. We'll announce the winners at the end of the show. Now, before we get Anna up here on stage to talk with Huru and myself, take a look at a clip from her film, Level Up.
Excuse me. Hi. What's up? I'm talking to you. How's your night? What's up? What are you doing?
We're back here at the Carrboro Film Festival, and I am here with Anna Barker. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. That was a wonderful performance.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming here and well, blessing us with that. That was fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
You, obviously, Carrboro Film Festival, so you did a film.
Yes.
Called Level Up.
Mm-hmm.
And you featured dance in the film to go along, sort of infuse in the narrative of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Did you initially want to make a film about dance and then put narrative around it, or vice versa, or was it both sort of a combination of both?
It was sort of a combination of both. I use a lot of narrative and theme in my work, and that's sort of a jump-off point even for my live work, even before the movement comes in. So this kind of was similar in that regard. My work deals a lot with success and failure, and one of the amazing things about dance is that it kind of gets at the sort of emotional underpinnings of what's going on, the way that you feel those ideas of success and failure as they come up in your body. And so that's something that's just I've always been really interested in. And then in terms of film, film is something that I have incorporated into my live work in the past, and is something that I really value as a way to kind of broaden audiences. Something that is something that I'm really interested in terms of my sort of work and my sort of mission statement, is to try to bring more people in to see dance, and specifically modern dance, because there are a lot of barriers around modern dance. And so one of the reasons I wanted to make a film was to try to bring different audiences, think about different ways that I could get my work out to different kinds of people in a more familiar medium. So that was the reason why I wanted to make the film. And then the other reason is because film is really wonderful at capturing these little nuances. I do a lot of gestural work. I really use hands a lot. I use my face a lot. It's hard with the mask, but there is a lot of detail in my work. And sometimes when you're in a big proscenium theater, that detail gets lost. So this was an opportunity for me to kind of get really, really specific and focused on what I wanted to draw the eye of the viewer towards, and really, really get specific on that level. So it's a kind of a mixture of things.
Okay. Let me get a little closer to the mic there.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Well, yes. So sort of to go along with that, do you now, was this your first film?
Yeah.
Oh, well, wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Please keep making more films.
Awesome.
Do you now find that you are changing the choreography, even if it's a similar dance, when you're making a film, because you now know, like you said, you can get a little bit closer with the camera than someone who's in a live audience and maybe like 12 rows back, so you can see more minute gestures. Do you change them? Do you exaggerate or?
I wouldn't say that I change them. I think that I get really, really specific about them. And the only other sort of confounding variable is that a lot of it has to get smaller because of the floor that we're on. A lot of times we're not on sprung floors, especially if we're on location.
Right.
So a lot of that gets sort of minimized. Also, yeah, we're not projecting to the back row, so we get to be smaller, we get to be more intricate, and so it's like a nice opportunity for me to really, really get specific. I don't know that the choreography changes specifically to reflect that, but I think that what I've done in this film, at least, is taken some work that I have projected in sort of much larger spaces in my live work and really gotten specific about the things that I felt that were lost or things that I wanted to really, really highlight as a way for people to kind of see the work again if they've seen it in the past, especially if they've seen it live and in a totally different way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I've got to talk a little bit about your film, if I may.
Go for it.
No spoilers, Huru.
No spoilers. But you do have a couple of characters in your film, sort of featured. They are fantastic.
They are fantastic. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about them without spoilers? But tell us a little about them.
So I have kind of two other main characters. I am also performing in the film. I perform in all my work because I make work that's so specific to my own experience. And I have Leah, who is my collaborator and partner who you saw on the stage today, and is my sort of main collaborator in life and in art. The sort of one of the things that I investigate about success and failure is within the dance world, right? So what's really great about Leah's character, because we are still playing characters, is we have this really close relationship. We have this really, really deep friendship. There's a lot of care. And I still kind of bump up against sort of the societal ideas of expectation about like what success should feel like to me as a 30-something female-bodied dancer. Right. And then Christopher is the other character where we kind of really get at the sort of ideas of success and failure as it presents itself in relationships, particularly in romantic relationships, but in relationships in general. We kind of get more at the gendered idea of success and failure there. And then I also have the opportunity to talk about gender as it exists inside of the dance world and how that relates to success and failure, and how being a female-bodied dancer has a very different trajectory often in the dance world than if you're a male-bodied dancer. So without giving anything away, those are kind of reflections of things that I deal with in my work, whether it's dance or whether it's relationships. It's all these ideas of personalized idea of success and failure for me.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So we just saw this clip in the skate park, and you're basically your own stunt woman. So can you tell us what it was like to shoot at the skate park with all these skateboarders flying around you? Yeah, tell us a little bit about what that shoot was like.
It was really fun. It was scary at times, but it was really thrilling. The skate park is actually a site-specific area I've done work in the past and have revisited. So I I think, yeah, like you said, I was really interested in this idea of getting stuck and not being able to get out of the bowl. Likewise, Leah's kind of stuck on the bus. And I think we really went for the sort of physicality of the feeling of stuckness and the feeling of anxiety around feeling stuck.
Did you have any technical issues when you were shooting that? I'm just trying to imagine like the film crew there and how you're dealing with that.
So we have a pretty skeleton crew. We have my amazing DP Ned Phillips was basically in the bowl with me, and we sort of had to choreograph all of these skaters who are just so amazing at what they do, so impressive. We didn't even really get to capture all of the amazing stuff that they did. But we kind of saw it as like a video game. So I was sort of in the center, and then everyone was kind of figuring out how to be around me, including the camera and including all of the lights. And yeah, it was definitely challenging, but I would say that ultimately we just had a really good time. I think it was less challenging for me because it's easy for me to kind of get out of the way of people. It's more challenging for the tech crew. I would definitely say that they really had a hard time with that one. But yeah, it was just so physical that we were just kind of.
Oh my gosh, it's my favorite, I think, scene in the film, and I related to a lot of the scenes in the film as a performing artist, as a female, and I think I really just loved how you went back and forth between Leah's story and your own.
Mm-hmm.
It was just beautifully done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
The characters that you portray and your colleagues portray, there's a wonderful soundtrack to this film to go along with the amazing dancing and the amazing acting, and it would seem that the music would sort of integrate with the character and sort of show almost their extension of them, like an expression of how they were being and how they were feeling, and then there would be choreography with that. Can you explain, like, did you do or how you did the choreography for a character to go along with the music, the wonderful music?
Thank you.
Yeah.
In general, the music comes second. The choreography and the theme comes first. I worked with this incredible composer, Adam Lindquist, who has worked on my live work in the past, and we just had dialogue about the music from the very beginning. It was one of the first things that we talked about. And I honestly just have the luxury of having really incredibly talented collaborators, people who know what I'm going for in terms of theme, in terms of mood. And Adam is luckily familiar enough with my work that he's kind of just was able to guess really easily what I wanted. And then kind of we fleshed it out from there. And then, of course, the editing process is a whole other story, right?
Right.
But in terms of how we developed the music, it really just comes from theme. So I was very, very specific with Adam about what I was trying to get at, and he was just really great at producing that. And then there are other tracks that we picked that Adam didn't create, and they're all Durham-based artists. I really wanted to keep it local, and there are so many amazing and talented musicians in this area. So it was cool for me to also expand and collaborate with people that were new to me. So.
Okay, right on. So now that you have this film under your belt, are you going to try and do more of this style? Are you going to try and expand and do something different? What do you have planned for the future?
That's a really good question. I find that at the end of every work, I'm always looking for different ways to sort of push myself and push my work and push the genre of the work. And so this was my kind of first stab at that. And then I imagine that film will stay with me. I don't know whether it's going to be exactly like this, but I've always been super, super interested in dance for film. And so I look forward to incorporating that. I'm not exactly sure how that'll be. I really miss performing for live audiences, and I miss being in rooms with people and you know.
This was such a treat to see you live. I was so excited.
It was so nice to perform. Thank you so much. It really, really was wonderful. And so I'm hoping that once we get out of this period, that I will be able to, revisit that kind of live performance venue. And we'll just kind of see what happens.
Okay. Good luck to you and Leo Wilkes.
Thank
you so much for being
Barker,
here
thank
tonight.
you.
We are so lucky and honored.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
And now I believe we are going to watch a pre-recorded interview that our own Edith Snow did, and then we'll be right back.
Hey, just popping in to tell you a little bit about Dave Park. Dave grew up in North Carolina. He went to UNC Chapel Hill, and he's now an award-winning producer. Credits include Ratatouille, WALL-E, Monsters University, and Coco. He was at Pixar Studios for 14 years and is now at Locksmith Animation in London, England. He brings us a really unique perspective from the managerial producer side of the industry. I'm so proud of him because he also happens to be my cousin. Here we are on a little Zoom chat. Enjoy this discussion with Dave Park.
You're my cousin. We got to talk about your roots.
Okay. I grew up in Winston-Salem, spent a lot of time reading, Stephen King books and science fiction books and watching Star Wars 30 times and Indiana Jones. I was a giant fan of Jim Henson and the Muppets and all the work he did with puppets and special effects and practical effects. I used to read Fangoria magazine about how they would, do all the latex masks and all that stuff.
You would set up these intricate Star Wars scenes with all the figurines and like the model. I remember like going in and being like, oh, Jabba the Hutt. What did his tail move or something? That plastic tail, right? And I just remember you being like, no, don't touch it.
Yes, I was very, very protective of my set design, I guess you could say. I was a big movie freak when I was a kid. I was kind of obsessed with them. So I got into Chapel Hill. I was very excited. Chapel Hill is an excellent school, and it was an excellent school. There was a professor named Richard Simpson who was like an old film school professor, and he was at the journalism school, and he was hilarious. He would say, like, go out and just make some mistakes, like get out there and get your hands dirty. And it was really refreshing because it just made you kind of go, yeah, it's not that big a deal. Let me just go try this. I feel so lucky to have the professors I did at Carolina. I loved every minute at Chapel Hill, and I still miss it to this day.
You sold all of your Transformers in order to get money to move to California. Is this true?
I think I sold all my Transformers for like $300, and that covered gas across the country at that point. That artist community out in the Bay Area really attracted me out there. And Pixar was out there too, and so was DreamWorks. So it was kind of like Northern California was bubbling in terms of filmmaking at that time. I went out there and I couldn't get a job in film, so I ended up in advertising. I was a copywriter, producer for TV and radio spots at this little ad agency in San Francisco, and that was a lot of fun. I got out of advertising, and then I ended up meeting someone through some freelance projects, and luckily I ended up at Pixar.
Let's talk about Pixar.
I interviewed 3 times at Pixar before I finally got a job offer, and that took about 2 years. I ended up getting a job as the development art PA for Ratatouille, and that's where I got my start.
From your first interview, what was that process like?
I think I only went in once, but I ended up talking to like 5 different people. You spend a day there and you just run the gauntlet. And at the time, Pixar was only about 600, maybe 600 or 700 people. It had had a lot of success, but Finding Nemo hadn't come out, for example, and it wasn't like the blockbuster factory that it became. I feel very lucky because at the time, Pixar was still very under the radar, and it had this really eclectic group of people working there. It's still a lovely place, and a lot of those people are still there. But at the time, it was like, it felt like we were kind of still an underdog and we had something to prove. I was PA in the art department starting in 2003, and I was on Ratatouille for about 4.5 years, something like that. I started on Ratatouille during the development process, so I started really early. I think most people are on movies probably an average of like 2 years. My last position was production manager on Coco, and production manager is sort of like the inventory manager.
When you use the word inventory, what are you referring to exactly?
Shots.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, a film is usually broken up into sequences, or some people call them scenes. You know, a sequence is probably about 2 minutes long and, you know, probably has about 40 to 50 shots in it. You have to make sure those sequences go through the pipeline together in a certain way. Ideally, you have to finish the sequence at some point as a piece of the film and then hand it off.
So in a nutshell, what is the pipeline?
Story, editorial, the layout department where you actually, or some people call it the camera department, where you actually shoot the 3D scenes. Then it goes on to animation, where you animate and you do the acting. Then it moves on to effects and character effects, where you do hair simulations and cloth simulations, and then you do effects if you have water simulations or fire, that sort of thing. And then it goes into the lighting department. Depending on what your process is, it can go into what's called finaling or rendering. It's like a polishing department where you sort of fine tune the images, putting all the data on screen and rendering really, really, really high res 3D images. You start working on sound when you're in lighting. You have to record everyone's voices before you animate, because you have to animate the mouths. You do a final color grade at the very end of the process and a final mix on the sound to make it look as good and sound as good as it can be. And then it gets, shipped.
Sometimes when I see an animation and I know who the actor is voicing that character, I'm like, oh, look at that gesture. That is that actor. Is that something that happens, or am I just making that up?
No, a lot of animators will use actor reference, because we tend to record a lot of our recording sessions so that the animators can actually watch. There might be a subtle thing that they do in their face, which, with a lip or an eye or an eyelid or an eyebrow or something, that makes them kind of go, oh, that's kind of cool. And they might put something in there.
That is brilliant. That's great information for actors.
Yeah.
When they're studying voiceover work. So now you're working at Locksmith Animation. Tell us what you do, Dave.
Currently, I am the associate producer on a animated feature film that's coming out in April of 21. COVID's kind of played havoc with our release dates, but right now we're slated to come out at the end of April in theaters, knock on wood. The associate producer is in charge of, sort of spearheading the overall budgeting and scheduling of the film, and working on, at the same time, balancing creative appetites and making sure the directors are getting what they want.
You have over 350 crew members on this film who are working from home. What is the vibe like? How do you guys make that work?
I really enjoy being in a building with a crew, because there's a certain electricity there, and you just have fun because you're around people. For the first, 3 months, every Friday we would do like a different theme, kind of as a joke, like Doctor Who.
Oh, I love that.
You have to be able to laugh when you're doing these movies. I think one thing is that the work-life balance goes out the window when you're working from home. In some regards, it's great, because you'll have artistic people like lighters or sim artists or animators or layout artists who will work from 11 o'clock at night till 4 in the morning, because that's when their creative juices are going. If artists can actually work on their clock when they are most inspired to do so, that is actually not a negative thing. Now, where it gets weird is if you have meetings all day and then you're also doing that at night, and then all of a sudden you're just working 24 hours a day, and that's not healthy. So then you have to help people kind of try to manage that. For the most part, I think it's gone pretty well, but if I had to do it all over, I would still rather be in a building full of people making a movie.
Thank you, David.
Thanks. I'm happy. I'm excited that you guys have a film festival going on in Carrboro. I wish I could visit in person.
David.
That was my cousin David. Yeah, David. Okay, so if you like movies that up your adrenaline, we hope that you will check out our On the Edge block. There you'll find a movie called Going Down Slow. We have the director of photography in the theater with us this evening. Her name is Monique Velasquez. She has her own business with Piper Kessler. She is also a filmmaker, a mentor. She's a community pillar, and she's my own personal shiro. We'll talk to her in just a second. First, check this out.
What's up, folks? We are back here live at the Carrboro Film Festival, and you are in for a treat. I am here with Miss Monique Velasquez. Hello.
Hey, Huru, how you doing?
I'm fine. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Last time I invited you on my show, and unfortunately, 2020 hit kind of early for me, and I couldn't make it. So this is good to have you here.
We're catching up now. Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year. So, you worked on a film, so I've heard.
I have.
A film, okay, called Going Down Slow, and you were the director of photography on this.
That's what they tell me.
That's okay, right on. Well, for those of us who don't know, please tell us what a director of photography does.
Well, we're just going to take our cue from the first word, director, right? So we direct where the picture goes, photog. So in essence, I would be in charge of pointing the camera at something and deciding what that story would tell, the photography of it, whether it's low angle, high key light, low key light, and direct how the lights and the actors would move through the space to some degree. Of course, you defer to the director, and the director has a lot of input. There's a difference in style with different directors. They want to, some people want just to come in and tell the story, and then some people, as a director, want to come in and help or comment on where the picture is to tell their story.
Gotcha.
So my job is to interpret and help and add to the pictorial story.
Okay. Now, not to give any spoilers away, not to give anything away, but your film, Going Down Slow, a lot of scenes are in the woods.
They are exteriors, yes.
At night.
A good bit of it is at night.
Yeah. So I'm watching this, and one, I'm thoroughly entertained, for one. Two, I was so worried because I knew a lot of people who worked on this. I'm like, how are they lugging equipment and gear and moving around out there in the woods? How difficult was that?
All right, it wasn't COVID difficult, but it was difficult.
Right.
So, you have to have a good relationship with your director, and your director has a vision. And the part of that vision was to not cheat the woods. He really wanted to, and I didn't get to hear the interview, and I'm sure that he talked about how he wanted to have that authentic feel of being by the woods. And there were some concessions that he had to make, like providing a facility for the actors and crew in the middle of the night. We also had to bring in a gaffer, Matt Head, to bring in enough lights to accomplish the lighting that needed to be done. And so we weren't terrifically far, but it wasn't the easiest thing ever either.
Right.
So
is that common to be filming in that sort of dangerous scenario?
Well, indie films, like, we try to do what the big guys do, and we have less people and sort of that sort of thing. So we wanted to be safe, and we wanted to use the location in a way that was authentic to the story. Now, is that usual? I'd say that it is, but most of the time it's daylight.
Yeah.
And I used to say to when I was teaching writing for film, I would tell my students, don't write for a cast of thousands, period piece, at night in the rain, because your budget just goes up exponentially. So that kind of location and that sort of activity in indie film is more challenging.
Yeah.
It's not usual because it's a budget bloater.
Now, speaking of challenge, I've heard, again, no spoilers, I've heard through the grapevine that there were some scenes that were shot that you only had one chance at. Is this accurate?
I'm sure I have this memory of a squirrel, a sieve, I don't know, but I do recall that there's usually something that it requires a special effect and a prop, because a lot of times it'll be like a candy glass vase that you're going to crack over an actor's head.
Right.
And you only get one shot. So,
right.
It's kind of those sort of situations when you have these special makeup or special effects where you definitely need to be rolling, check everything from, is the actor safe? Is the prop, is the makeup, is the special effect all good to go and rolling? So, yeah, there is a couple of places where, those are, nail biters, because you're like, okay, were we rolling? Yes, check it.
and that is that really all you can do? Like, just sort of double check?
You can. When you double, you can, if you have two cameras and do multiple. If you're Hollywood and you've got 7 cameras going on the big action driving scene and explosions and car flips. So we didn't have that. So we just, do our best to check the boxes. Everything's safe, everything going, everything ready.
Right. Well, okay.
And then go.
I have a question. So you guys did some experimenting out in the woods first to see if you could shoot in the day and then turn it into night. Can you talk a little bit about what that would have entailed?
Right.
And why you made the decision?
Good question. We the director had a vision and he wanted some authenticity. And I was thinking, okay, it's going to be October. It's going to be cold. And, there's that a couple hours where it's just, just drops so much and the moisture comes, and we were by the river. And so there's a lot of things that kind of add, you've got to deal with lenses and fogging and that sort of things. So, I thought, okay, what could we cheat if we were going to cheat? And I thought, okay, day for night. And that is a difficult thing to do. It can be done on a Hollywood budget. We did not have that sort of equipment, and we didn't have that sort of post-production, time to accomplish that. So we did some, day for night tests just to see. We did a lot of, lighting tests to see how big a kit or how big a, reinforcement of light that we needed for nighttime. So yes, we definitely tried to do a couple of those, and it's a tricky thing. It can look cheesy, and we went for not cheesy and went with the reality.
Well, I personally, I have to admit, many years ago, back when this festival was still in the single digits, and at the Century Center, the first one I went to, and I was trying to go to everything. I discovered it. I'm like, this is fantastic, wonderful. And Nick Beery was up there, like, asking questions from the crowd for a Q&A for the creators. And there was this lady 2 rows in front of me who kept raising her hand and asking all these questions, and everyone up there seemed to know who she was and kept meanwhile I'm like, who is this lady who won't let anyone else ask any questions? But here's the thing. I wanted to ask questions and I was too shy. And I noticed everyone else in the crowd was the same way. So there was nothing going on. And they needed someone who kind of, a friend who knew film, to sort of like,
yeah,
hey,
you were the
hey.
audience advocate
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, no, I am the chair right now, the program committee at the Out South, which is used to be Gay and Lesbian Film Festival. So a lot of years I have spent on stage with filmmakers in front of audiences that were too shy. And as a filmmaker, there's nothing. It's like being a comedian. Nobody laughs. You're feeling like you're dying, and so. Rather than have the filmmaker, stand there and not have a good exchange, and as a teacher standing in front and coaxing students into engagement, it was my way, and still is my way, of getting people to interact and getting people to engage with the filmmaker by asking questions that I know I want to know, and as a student, you should want to know as well.
And I did, and it turns out it was one of those things. I'm like, I asked, like, who was the lady? And I was like, oh, that's Monique. And then I proceeded to be educated about the great Monique Velasquez. and then I got to work with her, and everything that they say is true, all the good stuff.
And the bad.
None of the bad, none of it. So I realized and was told, like, you've done it all. You've done acting, you've done directing, obviously director of photography, editing, the whole spiel. You've got there's KV Works and Velasquez Media Communications, production companies. Is there anything, any particular one of those specific disciplines that you kind of favor? And like, I love all of this stuff, but this one thing I really like to do.
I'll tell you the one that I'm doing at the moment, like in the moment. So when the question popped up, I always go, oh, I forgot I was in that film. It'll come up, I'm like, it's my film. I'm like, oh, right, I was in that film. I think about the other actor. I didn't direct that particular film, but I was in it. And so, I'm like really enjoying, and then I see myself and I'm like, oh, and that was fun. It's not something that I seek out to do. So acting is not one of those things. I will do it if I really have to. I like writing for my clients and to being creative. It gives me a chance to try new things, and that's something that as a filmmaker you should always be willing to try new things. It's like and copy. It's like and take something that you've seen and turn it for yourself. So. A lighting scheme in a film, you're like, that was kind of interesting how they had that just enough light to see this side, but you can't see anything else. It's like, I'm going to try and find the right scene for that. And there are lots, I have things in my pocket right now, my proverbial pocket, of things that I want to try on screen that the project hasn't been right for. I'm not going to give them away because you'll probably see them when the pandemic ends and we have the film festival come back. So I've got some things in my head. And so, as a DP, lighting. As an editor, I enjoy creating the story, especially documentaries where you are really shaking the dirt through the sieve and getting the big nuggets of information and things that are going to be informative and tell a story that didn't seem like it was there. So there's a lot of things that, wearing lots of different hats has been fun. I don't know that it serves me to have done all those things, but I can do them.
Of course it does, right?
Absolutely.
It's been fun. It has been a lot of fun. And I would say that, one of the things that I would love to see, and one of the things that I love to do, is actually mentor and to encourage women and minorities to think about taking on roles that aren't fetching, cables or coffee or whatever, and thinking about taking a more active role in the creative process or the technical part. So that's something that, I can do, and I do.
I was fortunate enough to, after attending the film festival for many years, I approached Nick Beery with a whole bunch of questions, and he kind of like, whoa, look, just help me put it on, which kind of floored me. Wasn't prepared for that, but I did, and now here I am. And then luckily, working on a project with him, I got to work with you. And then afterwards, when we had the premiere, it was at the Carolina Theater, I believe, the Varsity. It was at the Varsity. And they asked for creators to come up on stage. And I was like, we're supposed to go on. No one told me that. And you turned around. You were like, yeah, we're going up on stage. I'm like, you're coming with me, right? You were like, yeah. So I went up on stage, turned around, and you were back there in your seat, just waving. and I was now stuck up there on stage.
It wasn't a bad thing.
I mean,
you have to take it. You have to take the credit when you can get the credit, as far as taking, especially if it's a project you are proud of,
right,
or feel like you really grew as an artist.
I appreciated it later. Yeah. In the moment, I was just trying not to, pass out. But thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You got stronger.
Yeah, I did. And that's one of the, I've come to find out through working with you and the many people around in this area who have worked with you, that they are grateful that they have done that. And so am I.
Well, I appreciate the.
So am I.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to wrap up, but
Yeah.
just because you were talking about Nick Beery and Jackie Helvey, I want to give them a shout out. They are the founders of the film festival.
Yep.
Over 15 years ago,
Over 15
although
years.
this is our 15th festival.
Yep.
So
Yep.
shout out to them.
Nick Beery and Jackie Helvey. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for coming, Monique.
Hey, I had a lot of fun.
Thank you, Monique.
I am really glad that this festival is still going strong.
Yeah.
Thanks for all the energy that you
And
put into
out
this.
south as well.
Yeah, we got the pandemic boot from August to, hey, we just had it, I think it was last weekend, the 14th, 15th, yeah. So.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Monique.
Thanks for the invitation.
Okay, we have some winners from the contest tonight. We have Alyssa Noble. Her favorite film that is dance themed is Pina. She's going to get some gift cards from Amante Pizza, the Baxter, and Rumors Boutique. Ooh, I love that place. And we also have some social media giveaways for Scott Jared, Ingrid Fricks, and DJ Ray J. I cannot read the writing, but we'll find you, don't worry. You guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're so happy to be able to put on this film festival virtually in 2020. Woo! Right? Right? Okay. So please, I hope that you will join us tomorrow night at the Cat's Cradle. We have a wonderful lineup. Jaghetto, he will be there performing with his puppets. We also have an interview with Keith Knight, who has a new show called Woke. I think it was just renewed for a new season, right? For season 2. It's on Hulu. It's wonderful. I binge watched it. It's so good. Check that out. And we also are going to have live music. Of course, we have to do that. We're in the cradle from Azul Zapata. So please join us. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves and your family and your friends. Be well, everyone. Good night.